What if quitting drinking didn't solve your problems, but exposed the ones you've been avoiding? Hey, today I have a really real conversation with mortgage broker Jasmine Findlay, and she opens up about her decision to take a path of sobriety, how it led to burnout, and eventually even questioning her entire career, and how she's had to build build resilience, as well as how she's completely flipped and doing amazing now. And I think this is just a story of how we can overcome difficult things. And I love Jasmine's willingness to be open and vulnerable. And I know that she's not the only person out there who has struggled or is struggling with this. So I think this is a very important conversation. A couple of things that we cover. We talk about the paradox of sobriety, about how quitting alcohol or quitting whatever this thing is, maybe it's you're a workaholic, how it doesn't improve your life right away. We talked about the burnout, how it affects your identity crisis, and then how to redefine success around having a calm nervous system. And I think this is an important discussion. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the Out of Mortgage Brokering Podcast. And this week we're going a little more deep into the emotional side of it. And because we are full people, we're not just mortgage brokers. I think this is important. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor before we get into that. It's Ownwell is an amazing tool for mortgage brokers to be able to monitor and to their clients' home equity and buying power on a monthly basis. It sends these really great reports that create conversations, open rates of 60 to 80%. And the brokers that have been adopting it, the clients love it, the brokers love it. And you can use it to build your database as well as referrals. Check them out at ownwell.ca/Scott and check out this conversation with Jasmine. Hey, Jasmine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got in the mortgage biz.
So I started almost 9 years ago. I was an administrator for a mortgage broker. So I went in, I had no idea what a mortgage was. I was working retail at the time. I'd just gone on mat leave. And I definitely didn't want to be working in retail at that time. So I applied to be like a receptionist, right? Fax payout statements out. And I would see people coming out of the office really happy about, meeting with the broker and getting this mortgage. And so I started to understand what it was. And I'm like, I want to be part of that. Like, I don't want to be answering the phones anymore. I want to be part of that conversation in that room where they leave happy.
Right.
And so I started taking, I took the course, and very quickly, I realized, I want to do this on my own. And it's very surprising that it's not as easy as you think it is.
Yeah, no, it always looks easier. When somebody's good at something, it looks really easy.
Yeah.
And you don't know how hard, it's very difficult to make something look easy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then when did you go from doing the receptionist to actually doing your own production? How long did that take?
So just under a year. So I was under a year, and then I became like a contractor for my broker as I was doing some admin work for him. And then eventually I found that was kind of taking over, right? So I had to fully disconnect. So I'm going to say about 16 months in the industry, I was fully on my own.
Okay.
And I'm going to say I probably shouldn't have gone that quickly.
But it worked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so when did you know that the industry, like the mortgage business, was for you? Because even though you had left that, because sometimes there's a point where you're like, okay, I think I can do that. I got this. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was when I was sitting down with a client who couldn't get a mortgage anywhere else. And we were able to get her a mortgage at a credit union. And she had been declined everywhere. And, we had a good relationship. Our brokerage had a good relationship with a credit union, and they funded it. And it was that point that I said, when people can't win, I want to be part of those conversations, like the underdogs, the ones that no one wants to touch, right? Those are the challenging ones. I like a good challenge. That's one reason why I like this industry so much. Everything's different. Every single thing every file we touch is different, right? So you can't ever get bored.
Well, if you want challenges, we've got them. So, but everybody does though, right? Like, it's funny. We all think that we're unique. Are snowflakes. I remember when I was in the paramedic and people would say, oh, paramedics have a high divorce rate. So does the world has a high divorce rate. It's not just paramedics, it's mortgage brokers, it's realtors, it's whatever. But we all thought that but the reality is that, yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So you basically realized, okay, that was the thing. And then how did you get what were the things you did to get your business growing?
So I actually started in a BNI chapter. So I would go to a BNI meeting I forget what day it was, but it was early. Like, it was one of those 7 a.m. ones. And it took me about 9 months before I got my first client. And I was fairly lucky at the time. I had some fun, so I wasn't really worried about, making sure like bills got paid. But so it was okay that it took a little bit of time, but it was BNI actually. It was BNI going to those meetings, getting comfortable talking every week about what I do. I've realized even 9 years in that I don't talk enough about mortgages. I've started over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but a lot of people don't know I'm a mortgage broker, which is like, I'm like, what? I post stuff, not enough, obviously, but it got me comfortable talking about myself and what I do, which,
Right.
and I stayed in there into COVID. So, I mean, at least 3 or 4 years.
Right. Yeah. And it's amazing. Like even with you talk about your social, just because people don't see it. Like Facebook's, if you look at their algorithm, every fourth post is an ad, or fourth or fifth. So there's a bias towards feeding you ads, and your friends and people that they see very little of it. Like,
Yeah.
And our attention spans are so short. It's crazy. So, you kind of built your business up. We had talked about this, and there's something I think would be interesting for our listeners because this is something that a lot of people have gone through, myself included, this idea that you got really busy up until I think 2022, you said, and then you kind of hit a burnout. So I'd like to talk about that. And normally, so on the podcast, we tend to be like, hey, what's working? But I think there is a value in discussing what happens when you get burnout, what that looks like, and then how do you get out of it to reset? Because there are absolutely people out there listening right now that's their experience. They're either going into a burnout or they're in the middle of it. And so why don't you walk me through some of that?
Yeah. And my burnout, actually, it didn't happen right away. And and now, like, I'm a couple years out of it now, where I can kind of see where the root cause was. But the root cause was when I quit drinking. I quit drinking in like August of 2022. And I really thought my life would just become like amazing, right? You're like, well, I quit drinking. Everything has to be better. And I kind of floated on that high for about 4 months, but I was really focused on like taking care of myself. So I worked with a coach, and I worked with a fitness coach, and I really didn't work on my business because I was like, I'm this fragile little, newly recovered person. I'm going to take care of myself. And then, those 4 months of working with these people ended, the $20,000 that I spent on working with them ended. And there was no one, and I had no business, and I had nothing in the pipeline, and I had no idea how to actually get myself back to working. Like, how do I get back to my desk? How do I open up my computer? How do I answer email anymore? I felt so drained. It was as if, I don't really understand actually what had happened. It just, I completely froze for months. Like, I couldn't work for months. Yeah, I just would have a hard time. Like, I would respond to some emails, but I wasn't actively pursuing, files or anything. I'd have clients, who return clients, but it was not enough at that time. Like, rates had changed. My own mortgage rate had changed, right? I had gone adjustable. My mortgage had gone up.
Yeah, so did I. It's like,
right?
Oh my god, yeah.
Right.
Totally.
And so everything that could have gone against me, like, was going against me. And I felt like I just couldn't get out of it. And I basically froze for 4 months. Like, I couldn't work. Like, I could not wrap my head around doing anything. And I struggled because, I had won, like, previously, and in that year, 2023, I actually took the trip that I won the year before for getting highest year-over-year growth. And, and now I wasn't producing anything. Like, it was so hard to wrap my head around, like, why? I have a database. I know what I'm doing. I have a social media following. I have clients. I have realtor partners. Like, why isn't this working for me? And hindsight, like, at that point, I was like, well, it has to be the market. It can't be me. Like, it has to be the market.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be, you can't take 2 weeks off. You can't take 4 months off, for sure, off of the work. But it takes a long time to get back out of that, right? Like, it was hard. I was almost afraid to get back to my desk. Like, I'm like, I don't think I could do this anymore. Like, I don't think I could depend on myself to produce an income that will sustain my life. And that was scary. Like, it was a really hard place to be where, like, I was a single mom at the time. Like, I had no idea how I was going to make mortgage payments, right? Like, I had no one. Like, I was like, if you're not producing, you are not making payments, right? So, those were like really difficult times for me, of course. Eventually, I got out of it I want to just pause for a second. Yeah. This is like, there's a lot going on here, and I want to like unravel it a little bit. So, essentially, 2022, you decide, okay, I'm going to quit drinking. And so, what made you come to that decision? What made you decide, okay, this is something that was a problem? And then, the
belief that this was, you can't see my quotes, that this was actually, everything's trajectory was going to change, but it actually ended up creating like, there was almost like another lower before you actually came out. Right? Does that sound right?
Yeah. And it's funny because like, I mean, maybe because I didn't hit rock bottom with my drinking, like the universe was like, well, we're going to make you see it.
You still got to see rock bottom, and you didn't get there. So I'm going to bring you there before we bring you out. So, okay. But what made you decide you needed to quit drinking?
So, I always call I say I have ADHD. I was formally diagnosed back in university 20 some years ago. And then I'm kind of against the whole medical system, so I don't take meds, right? So I find that I'm a dopamine seeker. So yeah. I'm constantly seeking dopamine. So during COVID, when we were in lockdown and I was in this terrible relationship, I was like, well, I need to feel happy at some point. And alcohol was like, here, like we're the only thing open during COVID, right? So right. It got into a habit.
Yeah, it was one of the essentials that they knew that they couldn't close, unfortunately. Like, geez.
That's right. And yeah. I mean, like everything, fitness places were closed and yoga studio, like all the healthy dopamine, like pieces that I could have sought out were all closed. And, and it's easy. It's easy to wallow in your crap. Okay. I mean, really, it's easy. It's way easier to be like, oh, woe is me. Life sucks. I'm in a shitty relationship. And drink. And just, and not want to feel that. Right. So, I did that for a couple years and eventually I got rid of the guy. But I still kept the habit for another almost full year because it's hard to release the crappiness that you feel being in this really awful relationship. Right. There's a lot of insecurity and I felt that throughout my life, my business, everything was being affected by that relationship. I couldn't concentrate on anything else. So, self-destructive. I mean, humans, we can be very self-destructive. So, that's what I did. I would drink, every night, bottle of wine, and eventually, I broke up with him, was single mom. And eventually I figured, I hated waking up every morning early and I would still wake up early, surprisingly. And I hated feeling that way. I just hated feeling that I wasn't being my best self. I really wasn't. I was listening to all the motivational stuff, but I wasn't living as if I of the person I wanted to become. So I knew it, it was just not a good habit. I always said, I have a toxic relationship with alcohol and alcohol and I have to break up. That's how it went. Right. And I had tried quitting a couple times. I'd done 1 month challenges kind of thing. And every single time I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to go back to drinking. And then it happens again. So this time around, I said, I'm going to take my 30 days. I read a book called The Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace. And she kind of breaks down, she talks about it in a different way. And she does look at it like a break, take a break for 30 days, see how you feel. And this time around, I was like, I don't want to go back to it. And I still count down. I just passed 950 days the other day. And it's
amazing.
It's really great, right? It's just, I knew that I had to get rid of that. And in the process, I got rid of other stuff too. I quit smoking cigarettes. I had to quit coffee. There's a whole bunch of stuff I had to quit along the way that kind of moved out the hurdles, the self-imposed hurdles, right?
And the dopamine chasing that you said you were doing. So so it was all these things that you're like, okay, well, that's how I chase dopamine and
well, even toxic relationships. I was literally chasing toxic relationships because it would give me a dopamine hit. Oh, cool. Can I chase you to please love me? My goodness. It's at that point that you realize how much trauma will affect your life in so many ways. I had no idea I'd be going through such an evolution over the last 2 years. Grateful at this point, but there was times over the last 2 years that I didn't know if I was going to make it. It was so hard to get through this, and I was like, am I the only I have to be the only one suffering this kind of growth?
Yeah, there's no way. But you're brave enough to talk about it. A lot of people just
for sure
suffer in silence So I know that this is not a easy topic to share about. So wait, at what point did it start to turn? So you kind of you stopped alcohol. You thought, okay, everything's going to be better, but then you actually found that it went worse for a while. What actions did you take to help you get out of it? So people and it may be different. Somebody listening, it may not be the same for you. This is just Jasmine's story. It's not prescriptive, but
Yeah.
hopefully it's inspiring in that if you're in a low spot, that there are, some actions will help you get out of it, whatever that is. So maybe walk me through that.
So one of the biggest things was just getting to my desk every day. So actually, one of our wonderful brokers at Bricks, I wasn't at Bricks at that time. She reached out to me and she kind of saw I was struggling, and she said, "I'm doing this accountability challenge for a month. Like, is that something that would help you maybe?" And I said, "Yeah, I just need to have a reason to get to my desk every day. Like, it just give me something to do, even for 5 minutes, because at least if I'm there, I'm going to start doing more stuff."
It's kind of like sometimes they would say in a challenge, like just show up to the gym, and just even if you just show up and then leave, it's fine. You know what? Maybe I'll do a little bit, and then so that's kind of what you started, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's just kind of showing up. So I did this, 1 month accountability challenge. We were going to create some reels for realtors, so it forced me to kind of get out, back communicating with realtors, back communicating with people and clients, and getting back onto social media consistently. So
right.
And that was, I want to say that was in May or June of last year of 2024. And then it took a little bit of time. Like I said, I barely worked in 2023. So I was getting caught up, let's call it, right? Getting caught up. Your property taxes don't keep, your mortgage always keeps coming out. Like everything keeps coming out, your insurance, your everything, right? So I've been playing catch up for a while. So when it hit November of last year, I basically closed 50% of my business in like that month because of the momentum I started building in May and June, right? May and June. Now, I even last August, I had gotten to the point where I said, okay, I had gone through about 3 interviews with Service Ontario. I was going to get a job. Like I was going to get a soul crushing, mind blowing job that I was going to hate. But I had to pay my bills. Like I was like, I'm going to do something because I need to do what I can for my family right now. So in August, I'm like, I'm going to sell my car. Sold my car, had 3 months more mortgage payments, and I was like, that's your 3 months. You have 3 months, because in 3 months you can change your mortgage business, right? If I can close 10 files today, I'll at least get paid by the end of those 3 months, regardless, purchase, right? And so I said, you have 3 months. If you don't change, like you need to get a job, like start preparing a resume. And my life changed because I threw that fire under my butt, right? And I gave myself 3 months. I gave a buffer. And this time I was serious. Like, I think I'd given myself that ultimatum, but I always kind of had like, well, I'll keep trying. This time around, I said, if you don't turn things around, you're like, you can't. There's just like, the economy is not in a position where you can just like, I'll close a file this month. You have to be consistently closing stuff.
Right.
So if you can't do that, then you need to get out of this now, like before you lose everything.
So how many mortgages did you end up getting after that 3 months? What did that look like?
So I closed 8.
Right.
November, December. Yeah.
Right. Amazing. But you know what? The fact you kind of had this, like you drew a line in the sand and said, hey, you also had a bit of you created for yourself a consequence, and then you're like, oh, okay. And then you reminded yourself, hey, I can do this. Right. Like, it's sometimes we just forget. We're like, wait a second, I can do this. And then I've always said, you can lose everything, but if you lose your self-confidence, that's where you're like, that's the hard part. You got to get that back. If you don't get that back, like, everything else.
Yeah. And I had a good handful of people who believed in me, like enough that they like whispered just enough in my ear that kept my mind going, okay, like, I think you can do this. Like, I kept saying, like, you're not 1 year in, you have a database, you have this, you have like the pieces, all the pieces, you have all the pieces, you're just not showing up. Now, when I started blaming myself instead of the market and, all the rates and all the stuff and the competition, when I switched it to myself, that's when things changed. Okay, cool. Now I'm the problem. Perfect. I can now change this. If I show up to my desk every day and I do a little bit. The other thing was to break down things. So like, I find in our industry, we're very much like, there's so many amazing things that we could do, right? You can send videos to your realtors and you could do this and you could do that. I had to choose like one thing and focus on that only because I'm like shiny objects and oh, cool. Like, let's try that. But I wasn't doing anything. Like, I had a database, but it was a dirty database. There was, there was old phone numbers and old emails and old clients that, haven't been around. And, I had to clean that out, and it was daunting. Like, I was like, I don't want to look at 1,000 names and clean that out. But I said, you're going to do one piece at a time. And if it takes you 6 weeks, that's what I'm going to do. So, I finished off my broker course. I worked on my database, and each thing was like 4 to 12 weeks of like intensive every day, an extra little hour at a time. And it was just the showing up every day. I'd show up a little bit more. And the other thing that helped was an accountability group. So I created a group when I came over to Bricks, at 9 a.m. Monday to Friday, hop on Zoom, let's do work while, there's other people kind of keeping us accountable to ourselves, and just get some stuff done, because at least, and I host it because I have to be here. If someone else is hosting, I cannot show up. Right. So for me, it's selfish. It's, I want to,
you've created your own accountability with the group, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how has that helped you? And how many people typically show up to that? What do you have for?
So we only have 3 people. There's only 3 of us.
That's okay.
And so, it's typically the 3 of us will show up. And that just helps me, because like, if I have to be at my desk every day, I'm not going to come here and not do anything. Like, I'm at least going to tidy up my desk or clean out my email, which will then like, oh shoot, I did, I have to respond to this, or, oh, this is something I can action right now. Or, no one's here to pull us out of bed and tell us we have to work. So, the quickest thing that changed for me was like realizing that I had the power to do it myself. Like, I had to do it myself. And I very self-aware to the point where I know that I need external accountability. Like, I won't be here every day. Like, if no one else is looking at me, I won't be here every day. I will find a reason to not be here. I'll do dishes at 9 a.m. or I'll find something else to do. But, forcing myself to be accountable to other people has really changed things up for me, right? Like, I will find something to do. We always have something to do. Like, we never not have something to do, but we don't. Sometimes there's so much to do that you have a hard time finding out what you need to do, right? Like, that's I find one of the bigger things with mortgage brokers is that we could be doing a million things. Like, I remember the other day we were talking like, oh, what are you guys working on? Oh, nothing. I don't have anything to work on. I'm like, well, we could be working on our taxes. Like, that's one thing we could be, right? There's always something that we could be working on.
There's always something to be working on, but is it the right thing? Is it the right thing in the right order? Is it going to move the needle? Am I just, shuffling chairs on the Titanic, as they say, which is, not useful work. And so, but that's good. So for you, what you found, so I'm just going to kind of recap, or just so I understand. So essentially you decided that your relationship with alcohol was not working, had to end that. Then was like, okay, I think it's going to make everything's going to be way easier now. But you found that actually now you had to hear this whole redefine what that looks like. And you went there was another level lower, and then getting into some accountability groups. You said you had mentioned to me before you did some coaching. So how did the coaching help that you'd gone through? Like, what was that like? And how did that coaching help you get, or put you on the path, or did it not help you? I don't know. I'm curious.
I don't know. I'm at a point where, I don't have the best outlook on what that coaching moment in time looks like for me. I don't know if it helped or not. I feel like it was a distraction, to be honest. I see it a lot in our industry. I was guilty of it too. I used to always just if I had a problem, who can I throw money at to teach me to solve it, instead of looking inward. And so that's what burnout forced me to do. I had no money to throw at a coach or a therapist or, anything. I was like, you have to figure it out yourself. You have, I was experiencing some symptoms that were similar to, depression and things like that. And I was like, I don't feel depressed. So I had to look at my diet and how much I was exercising, and the things I was putting into my body, right? Like supplements, right? And, and I realized it was such a holistic approach. Every time I go to if I go to a doctor, I haven't seen a doctor in years, but if I go to a doctor, they're like, well, it sounds like depression. It's like, okay, dude, if I'm struggling at work, it's not necessarily depression. Can we not look at all the other pieces that are attached to something, right?
Right.
I had to learn that myself, and I had to find the information. I couldn't just, okay, naturopath, here's $500 for you to figure out what's wrong with my gut, and maybe that will help me. No, I had to do everything. I had to trial and error everything. And And it got me to be very in tune with myself. I'm now very aware of when my body needs rest. I allow it. I allow it without guilt, without much guilt. Okay. I still have a little bit of societal guilt sitting there, but it became very important for me to like say, okay, I need rest right now, and being okay with taking it, because, you know, my brain is always telling me like, you burnt out, like you can't take 4 months off ever again. That's never going to be allowed anymore. So you either take an afternoon off or you keep going the way you're going, and you need to take more time off. So there is
your body will at some point revolt on you and say, okay, I'm done. And then it went through either illness or something else. And so you've so going through all this, it sounds like you've redefined what success looks like. Because sometimes if we're aiming at the wrong things, then we're just going to lead to more frustration. That can also lead to burnout. So walk me through how you were defining success and how going through this has made you look at it differently now.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so before success, and I think, you know, we might do a disservice in our industry, rewarding only top producers, because that seems to be like the benchmark. Like if I'm not winning an award for being a top producer, then like, should I be here? Right? Should I be in this industry? And I do think that, you know, we don't have to be cracking out $350 a year to have an impact. I started realizing that I'd rather make, you know, $80,000 a year and have a really healthy, happy, calm lifestyle where I get to hike with my boyfriend and my daughter, and we get to go camping. And I'm not working 60 hours a week, and I can have my evenings to myself. And my, you know, I changed wanting to crack those, you know, production goals to, I don't really care about the production goal, right? Like now my goal is to, if my nervous system is calm, then I'm winning. That because my nervous system was so, it was constantly like yelling at me before, like because I was doing everything that was like not aligned with me. Now that I'm like more, you know, more zen, I don't let anything bother me. Like let them theory, like to the max, let them, right? Like it's just, I had to really redefine. And I mean, I was a people pleaser. I was a people pleaser my whole life. I very much cared what people thought, and I cared what they might have said in the background if I posted something. And burnout, and then the eventual recovery from that, and learning about myself, and really just kind of like, you know, accepting where I am. I'm okay where I'm at, right? Like, after selling my car, I had to buy like an older cheap car, and I was like, I'm okay with this. Like, this is my karma. This is how I learn from this mistake. I feel like this is the price to pay. And I know that when I come out of this, like when I'm fully on the other side, I have like a great story to help my clients, to help other agents, to help, anyone else going through that. It's scary to feel like you're going to lose your home, especially in the mortgage. Like having to call a lender that we have in our channel sucks.
Right.
Sucks. It sucks. Like it's the most humbling experience you'll ever have. And that brought like I almost needed to be humbled. Like I'm like, yeah. I do believe that the universe gives us exactly what we need to be given at that time. And now I can say I'm grateful. There were moments last year that I did not feel grateful. I did not feel like I was like, why? Like, why me? Right? Like, why am I here? I can honestly say that it might've been the worst 2 years of my life, but it ended up being the best because I learned so much about myself. I got to redefine what my life looked like. I coming out on the other side, it's so much better. It just feels more calm. Like it truly was like a storm that I went through, and now I'm like out of it. And
and now now it's just stay out of it and stay in the
That's right.
Keep the same habits, keep the same things going, keep the same priorities, which is So I have a question about, first off, like, thank you for being so vulnerable. Most people come on and everybody wants to talk about everything that's working and how like, oh, I'm doing this. No, you wouldn't believe that. And I'm guilty of this too, because but at the same time, I also know that struggle, people struggle. It's reality. I struggled, lots of times throughout my career. Different phases have been worse than others. And so I think it's very brave of you to share what you're going through and how you've had to redefine things at the other side of it and how it's better. There is better on the other side. I want people to know that there's better on the other side. So don't like whatever you're going through. There's like, okay. And it sounds like you had some great people that were speaking into your life, which is important to have some people speaking into your life that are like, hey, you can do this. But like, what do you mean by, and your nervous system is calm? How do you know that? Like, what's the defining thing? So, because I think I really like that, but I'm curious how you define it. And it's probably not the same for everybody, but.
Yeah. So prior to that, I was I felt anxiety all the time. So it almost felt like my nervous system was in like fight or flight at all times. And I mean, the drinking will do that, right? Like, I mean, anyone who does any sort of substance on a regular basis, like your body is kind of going into like, going in and out of different waves. So your nervous system is kind of triggered at all times. But I almost call it like an anxiety or depression in your body that you feel like a heaviness or like a tightness. And I probably felt that most of my life, to be honest. I was constantly, like I said, a people pleaser and constantly just feeling stressed and anxious all the time. And now I don't. And I don't know if it's because I, stopped caring what other people thought, or because I like went over 40, like once you hit 40, like things change. And like, even in your brain, I find that changes. I don't know if it's because I got humbled, if I almost hit rock bottom. Like, I don't know what it was that changed me, but I only seek peace. I don't let anything in my life that doesn't, and there's obviously times in our business that's stressful for sure. But everything else is not, right? My relationship is calm. My relationship with my child is calm. My relationship with my family is calm, right? And I purposely look for ways to keep, and not just keep the peace. I'm not talking about like, oh, I don't talk about anything with anyone, so we don't deal with anything.
Yeah, because that's not good. Yeah.
That's not good either. It's more being able to communicate and knowing how, like, I had to change how I parented. I wasn't a great parent when I was drinking every night. Of course I was not. So I had to relearn how to parent. I'm a much more gentle, calm parent now. Even my relationships, I had to learn how to communicate, right? I didn't get into a toxic relationship because I'm a great communicator. I had to learn that in this relationship, right? So I have really... And then I also reduced the stress. So part of it was because I couldn't afford to put my kid in anything, but reducing like the volunteering, the signing my kid up for 50,000 sports, volunteering at the school, volunteering at the business associate. Like, I removed all that stuff. I stopped putting my hand up for that stuff because it was stressful. I got off the board of directors I was on because it was extra stress. And I created a very beautiful little bubble at home. My home was a very safe space. I work from home. There's plants everywhere and crystals and just really calming little Zen spot. And it was purposeful. I did it purposefully because I spent 40 years of my life constantly anxious.
Right. That's so good. So, as I say, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing this. So where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
Yeah, they can find me on my personal Facebook page. It's a public page. So Jasmine Findlay on there, on Instagram, you do have to request for my personal page on Instagram, but it's the same content on Facebook too. So you can follow me freely on Facebook.
Just go there. Okay. Well, hey, Jasmine, thanks for sharing. And I'm excited about this journey that you're on of like defining success as your nervous system, peace, calm, and, you're connecting with your family. So this is cool. I think this is a great episode for people to listen to and realize that. And everybody's journeys look different. They're going to come out of it different. But it's definitely worth a fight to go through it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks again for listening. Hopefully you got inspired by my conversation with Jasmine. I know I was. And the whole idea of having a calm nervous system is something I have not, I've only in the last few years, I've actually started to think about. Maybe it's just like it's becoming more a topic that we're talking about more often. And I think it's an important one because you can tell a lot. Your nervous system is going to let you know when something's off, and being more aware of it. I know I've had to become more aware of it in the last few years, and it's been helpful. So thanks, Jasmine, for being so real with me and all of our listeners. If you're listening to this, hey, as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the solution, who's got the answer. This podcast is designed to help you find some of those answers. Thanks for listening. I'm Scott Beckford, and I will see you on the next episode.